Alright, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel here on Jake's Gardening. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe, like the video, share with a friend. You know, whatever, the usual YouTube stuff. I am in a bit of a pickle as far as pollinations go. And I've had some issues with the new main vine I've trained. And I've had to do some improvisations, so I'm just gonna show you that, and I'm gonna just talk about it and whatever. I don't really know at this point, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, let's get into it. Alright, so here is my pumpkin plant in all of its glory. I am quite frustrated because, as you can see there, the new main came out. It was making nice tertiaries, but these are a little bit long for how long the main is. It should be up to like there or so. But if I come in here and show you, look at all these funky looking leaves. There was a female flower right there I was really excited about. I had like, I don't know, 13, 14 secondaries behind it. And if you look here, it's turning yellow. That means that it is not going to open. It will just rot and fall off. The tip is starting to come back though. The leaves are starting to look a little bit more normal further up. But I don't really know. I mean, it's hardly grown that much since yesterday. So, I think I'm gonna not chop it off or anything, but I'm not taking any chances with this vine. So the second furthest one away from the stump was that one. I had it trained back, and I'm training it this way. Well, actually, I'm thinking I might not do that, but this one is my strongest secondary vine. So as you can see, very healthy leaf color, nice dark green, not too nitrogen bloated, nice thick vine, nice good healthy looking tip. But as you can see here, the tertiaries are coming out on this leaf here. I accidentally pulled that one off. And then on the other side, tertiary, I think there's one further back. No, there isn't. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do with this one, since I have this whole other space, because that one is no good thanks to the hailstorm. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is, since this plant is also fairly decent size, I mean, it's not that big. It's probably covering about 150 square feet right now. That's like nothing compared to the full patch space, but what can you do? That hailstorm set me back by quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run these tertiaries this way, like secondaries, and those other ones I'm going to run that way. And then those secondaries, I'll just train them off in that direction or something. And then I'll run this secondary into this patch like a main vine. I have not amended further here. I should do that. I've been getting kind of behind. I've been pretty busy. These secondaries look good. That secondary looks good. That secondary that deadheaded itself is putting off a tertiary there that I'm going to train as a secondary vine. So you can tell what the plant was when the hailstorm hit, and then what all came after that. At least most of the plant is good. It's just that little bit in the middle is damaged. There are some flowers in there that I need to get cut off that I didn't cut off this morning. I always cut off my flowers to reduce the risk of pests. I shouldn't talk too long because I gotta get this done. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the secondary here, and I'm gonna make it basically essentially just a T shape with the main vine. I can't do that with part of it though because I've already buried that. Fortunately, I've gotten lazy and I haven't buried in a few days, so I have a lot of wiggle room. So I'm gonna get that done, and we'll see what we have. Okay, so hopefully, as you saw in that time lapse, hopefully you could tell I was trying to be slow. But yeah, when you're doing this, you never ever want to just speed through it. And you always want to wait for a nice hot day. I can do it any day I want because it's always super hot here. But it needs to be nice and warm out so you don't snap your vines. That is an essential thing. So I'm gonna just these tertiaries and train them like secondaries. These tertiaries even already seem to have fairly prominent little, I guess maybe you call it quadraries or whatever, but probably the more correct term would probably just be fourth stage growth. So this is second stage growth, secondary vine. These are third stage, and whatever comes off those is fourth stage. So the reason I've chosen this vine mostly is because it's the furthest away from the stump, which is like in there somewhere. It actually connects to the main, like right there, about almost 10 feet out, and then I've got an extra 6 feet of vine here with secondaries coming off it. So that's 16 feet. It's the equivalent of about 16 feet out. And this will probably have the equivalent of probably about 16 secondaries. Probably about 16 secondaries because all the tertiaries and everything. But the reason I chose this vine is because where is she? There it is. Got a female flower right there. She looks nice and healthy. I'm not going to disturb it too much. As you can see, there's a pole here and a T-post here. I'm going to remove the T-post. Probably what I'll do is I'll train this in a horseshoe pattern or an S-curve or whatever. There's a few different names for it. And so I'll have a pumpkin set in probably about here. I'm thinking that pollination's probably going to be around July 1st. That is fine for where I live because I have a late fair. It's October 13th is the fair I'm taking this one to. So I already have a fair that's probably about 2 weeks later than everyone else's. Plus, this plant will be a lot bigger by the time I pollinate. Each vine, that vine there, that vine, and that vine, they're all growing about a foot a day. I just moved this yesterday. It was setting about right, yesterday evening, it was setting about right there, and that had grown into it. So I hope that gives you perspective. This one has a female flower too. I'm not going to pollinate it, not going to worry about it. I did pollinate a female on that vine a couple days ago. I don't know if it took. I think it did, but I cut it off, and I cut it open, and I could see seeds were growing in it, expanding, so I think it took. It was just taking a little bit longer to grow. But yeah, I'm bummed about that because those were some nice tertiaries that were growing off there. This one has nice tertiaries too, so, and it's only one secondary behind that one, so it's not too big a deal. It's not that much less plant behind it. And since I haven't been making any clips throughout the week, I'm going to make a kind of long one here. I got a tertiary coming off this vine that deadheaded itself. As you can see, I've got another one coming out, but it's kind of budding. I've been hitting this plant with some nitrogen, and it's kind of snapped out of it a bit, actually, to be honest. And we've had a couple days, 107 plus degrees. That's in Fahrenheit, by the way, obviously. But yeah, so the plant's fared out well. It has, thanks to the shade cloth, it hasn't even been droopy. Nice plant overall, actually, despite everything that's happened to it. From the stump to this new main vine tip is probably about 16 feet. And this, from the stump to that vine tip, like I said, is probably about 16 feet. Because that vine is longer than this vine because of its stuntedness. And also, you can see there's about a foot between them. Right there. So, yeah, got this side amended more because I had a plant sitting about right there that I pulled out when the hailstorm hit. If you want to know what I've been fertilizing with, that's actually worked excellently for fertilizing with nitrogen. You see the plant looks healthy. I have had 3 female flowers so far on this plant, and every single one of them was a perfect 5-lober. Like, I'm not even kidding. You believe me if you believe me if you want. It's true. I'm hoping the one in that tip will be as well. I believe personally that the more lobes you have, the more seeds you can have, because when you open up a pumpkin, my last year's pumpkin was a 3-lobe flower, and it was only about 100 pounds of pumpkin. Was late pollination, not very good boron level in the soil, and what they'll have is these veins on the inside of seeds. That pumpkin only had 3. For every lobe, I've found there will be 1 vein of seeds. So my belief is that if you have more lobes, you have more vein of seeds. It means there's more pollen that can be absorbed, and every single piece of pollen can become a seed, or start the development of a seed within the pumpkin. So my belief is the more lobes you have, the more seeds you get. That's why I'm pretty excited about this plant's development of 5-lobers. See the stumps in there? It's probably about 1.5 inches thick. It's not the thickest stump in the world, but it'll do. So for fertilization, I've been doing a compost tea of uncomposted manure. This actually works really well. What I do is I just get a piece of that window fabric, and I make a bag out of it, put that in it, put the stuff in there, and then I tie it off and I let it soak in there for a week. This is very high nitrogen. There's alfalfa in it. There's a lot of urine in it, actually, from the animals, because they pee in it when after they're done eating it and whatever. It's their bedding, whatever. And I mixed manure in it. It's excellent. It has a ton of micronutrients because manure has just a bunch of stuff in it, and it works really well. I know it's not an exact science. My thought is, what I'm gonna do is I will make a manure with a consistent mixture out of that stuff that I really like, and then I will get it tested for its nutrient levels, so I can use it in a soil calculator, and I will amend my soil with that and some other stuff to fill in gaps if need be. And then I will also get the tested for the compost tea I've been doing, so I can accurately dose the plant. But about a bucket of that every couple days seems to be working. I know the new method is to spoon feed the plants and whatever. You don't want to you don't want to just feed once a week like It's like feeding a baby, as Mark Clement says. You don't want to feed a baby a steak when it's little, and you don't want to, and just like he also says, you don't want to eat all your week's meals in one day. But it seems to be alright since I've been foliar feeding to help reduce any deficiencies. So I've found that this mixture, the only thing it's really deficient in is a little bit of magnesium. Not manganese, because it's not having yellow spots on the leaves. It's just that the leaves were getting kind of, I don't know, they weren't small, but they were lighter colored. It wasn't a nitrogen deficiency because they were still getting nitrogen bloat. So I fed them some CalMag foliar spray because I prefer to do foliar feeding. It's more effective, and with this shade, it doesn't really affect the leaf life. You can see the edges of these leaves were a little bit lighter, and then after I fed it, these ones are darkening up again. So yeah, plant's pretty healthy. These are some right here. This is a fig tree cutting that's in there, and then here's another one. Here's a sweet potato cutting that almost died in that hailstorm, but it's okay. It'll make it. It's putting off shoots. Lost all its leaves. Here are some tree cuttings of a tree that we don't know what it is, but they're growing. See little shoots coming off. These ones died in the heat wave, but they're putting off new shoots on the other side. And then here is a desert willow cutting. These leaves were just here when I took the cutting. They're dying, but that's to be expected. It will put off new shoots once it's rooted in fairly well. And then over here are my tomatoes. And that wild mint, I've up-potted it to a little tub. It was getting a little root bound. These tomatoes were extremely root bound, and they've really taken off since being put in these larger pots. They're actually going to stay in those for their whole lives. I really wanted to do tomatoes this year. I didn't start them, or I didn't start seeds early enough, so I just bought a few starts. And then over here is the plant that really got beat up. It's growing. It's just a pollinator plant for that one. I'm actually kind of glad that flower didn't open, because it would have opened before any of this guy's flowers would have been open. So I would have had to self that, and I don't really want to self that plant because it's had so much inbred genetics in the past. That would be bad. I almost had this main vine double, and then a bunch of secondary vines doubled or almost doubled and stuff, so I'm not going to self that one. But as you can see here, getting a few little vines here and there. They're making flowers. All I need is pollen. I used a flower from this to pollinate the female flower over there, so I already know it's fertile because it did take, or at least I'm pretty sure it took. I found on ones that I don't pollinate, the seeds don't develop inside, and the seeds had started to develop in that one, so my belief is that it did take. Which was crazy because that day was like 105. It was actually Sunday this week. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that female flower in the tip there takes, for one thing, and that I can get a decent pumpkin. My goal is 1,000 pounds. I would love to get a 1,000-pound pumpkin. I'm going to bury vines. I'm not going to do that on camera. I will do a vine burying tutorial, but just not now. I've been busy, and I just found the time to make a video, so, according to my calculations, just based on the leaf distances between leaves and whatnot, pumpkin will probably sit about right here, which is close to those, so it's just part of why I'm going to be doing this S-curve. Anyway, that is it. I am actually done rambling now. This is my plant. We'll catch you next time.